Hi, welcome back to Sugar Beats. My name's Colin, and today I have with me Emily Ramirez.
Hi.
Emily, go ahead and tell the people where they can find you real quick.
Oh my gosh, everywhere. I'm everywhere. So you should follow me at Emily Ramirez Comedy on Instagram.
Mm-hmm.
You should go to babscomedyclub.com to check out my mobile comedy company right now and to hear about all of the shows that I have coming up that I'm producing. And then every Sunday at 2 p.m. in Batavia at the Comedy Vault, you can see the Improv Heist, which is another show that I'm producing. It is a 5-person improv show. There's live music. It's family friendly. It's good for all ages. So yeah, every Sunday at the Comedy Vault, 2 p.m., catch the Improv Heist. And
Absolutely.
yeah, that is pretty much all that's happening. Other than that, come take my open adult ballet class at Exhibit 3 Studios on Thursdays, or enroll your children in any of the 3 ballet studios that I teach at.
That's a great idea. You should enroll your children in any of the... No, I'm kidding. Thank you. I'm not kidding. You actually should. Emily's
It's
a
really good
fantastic
for you.
teacher.
You should do that.
But Emily Ramirez, everybody. Yes, fantastic. So you're a funny woman.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. How did you do that?
Oh, first of all, great question.
Thank you.
How did I do that?
I mean, it's a loaded question. You can pick a part
It
and answer
is.
it.
What are you implying?
This is just for incel engagement.
Incel engagement.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
so I started comedy because I could tell I was way funnier and better than all men.
There we go.
No, just kidding. No, I think that my comedic sensibilities come from a stew that is full of. First of all, my parents are both very funny.
Oh, good.
My dad is always like doing silly impressions and things. He's always doing like, in retrospect, I'm like, oh, you were kind of a clown a little bit. Like he was like the dad. He was like the cool dad. Everybody was like,
Yes.
Victor, do a backflip. And he's like, okay.
Yeah.
So, and then my mom is, she is a very straight talker, sharp, like, straight shooter,
Mhm.
and really brilliant woman.
Good.
And she is also really into like, freedom of expression. Express yourself. If there's something you're thinking or feeling, you need to get it out there into the world.
Absolutely.
For your mental health, for your sanity.
Right.
And because that's just the way that it should be. So I was not raised in maybe the kind of household where women are supposed to be seen and not heard. That was not where I was brought up.
Nice.
My brother is also really funny. My brother is like a way out there kind of like super class clowny kind of person.
Oh,
he
okay,
is
okay.
not afraid to pull focus in a room full of strangers.
Nice.
Whereas I don't know if I seem like I am or not, but if I'm not on stage, I don't really.
I don't know. I don't think you pull like I've been around you enough in
Yeah.
like a situation where you don't like act. If you do, it's never in like a negative way. I haven't seen like
Yeah.
if you pull attention to yourself, it's because someone told a funny joke and you laughed.
Oh, okay, great. I'll
Yeah,
take
like
that.
it's all good.
I mean, even when I'm like in the instances we've been like at a comedy club about to do a show, or
Yeah.
like I'm starting to set up or tear down a show, I'm still kind of on because I'm with my friends.
Yeah.
Or maybe there's patrons that are about to come to the show that are like enjoying it. I want to talk to them. There's a certain level of like on you want to be, but like
Yeah.
make no mistake, if I'm not doing a podcast or on stage or teaching a class, I am like 99% going to be in my pajamas, sitting on my couch,
Yes.
just like doing work on my computer with like 2 dogs on my lap.
Yes.
And that's it. I mean, my off button goes hard.
It's just honestly same. I think that's so important though as a performer. Like
Yeah.
if you can't hit the off button and be like, okay, cool, I'm gonna be barefoot for the next 18 hours. Like
Yes.
y'all good with that? Cool.
Yes. I know. Bob, I felt bad because he, when I walked in, I was dressed like this.
Like, yeah.
And he was dressed actually really nicely, and he was gentlemanly enough to dress down to closer to my level. But it's because think about it. I was a ballerina before. The outfits and costumes you wear are like
Immaculate.
not comfortable.
No, also not comfortable.
And scratchy, and there's like tulle and sequins, and you're like, ah.
Yeah, and they're all super thin because they have to be super tight.
Right.
Yeah.
And then, or they're super thick and you can't move in them, and you're like fighting a sweaty old bodice that's like 50 years old that's been sized and resized and sweat in for like it's really grotesque.
That sounds so stinky.
It's so gross. It's really gross. It's funny to me when guys think they're grosser than me, because I'm like, just by very design, there's no way you have a higher tolerance for grossness. But anyway, yeah, so I think that sort of like was the stew that I kind of was cooking in as I was growing up. I
Yeah.
never wanted to pull focus in general. I was always really talkative, but I never was like the person that was like, everybody look at me,
Right.
unless I was on stage.
Right. Because you'd be on stage for, was it Just Dance or did you also do?
It was Just Dance for
Cool.
like the first large majority of my life.
Yeah.
But what I realized, most of my friends that were dancers, when they weren't dancing, they were still consuming dance. They were talking about it. They were looking at videos of dancers on YouTube. They were watching old videos of Sylvie Guillaume or something. And when I wasn't watching dance, from the time I was a little kid, I was watching comedy.
Nice.
I always consumed comedy. My heroes were like Lucille Ball and like Julia Louis-Dreyfus
Nice.
and Betty White. I loved funny women. I was so
Yeah.
obsessed with them. Carol Burnett.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
And so that's who I looked up to. I was like, that is fun. I loved about these women that, you know, they happened to be quite beautiful, all of them.
Right.
But you don't notice that they're pretty because they're so funny. And I think that's always kind of what I've aspired to be. I would be nice to be attractive because I believe the world is kinder to attractive people.
It is.
Um,
Yeah. 100%.
I don't think that that's fair. I also don't
agree.
identify internally as an attractive person.
For sure.
But I try to
That
make...
sounded mean.
No, but you know what I mean. I'm glad you agree with me because I don't wield like.
I don't think that you're an unattractive person. I think as far as
No, it's
attractive,
fine. It's fine, Colin.
You
Like,
are
just
above
like-
a 5, Emily.
No, but it's not. I mean, you know, you wanna make your face something that people want to look at, especially if you're going to be on stage.
Yes.
However, it's just a meat sack. I'm just.
is me, you know? Yeah.
I'm just a sack of meat.
Yeah.
And I try to put some, I try to fill in my meat sack eyebrows so you can see them expressing themselves on stage. But more than anything else, beauty fades.
Yeah.
But comedy gets better, man. It gets funnier and funnier. So
That's true.
I think being a funny person is more powerful and has more staying power than just trying to obsessively, especially as a woman, hold on to my beauty.
Yeah, I think as well. I also, especially, I did musicals and things like that, and other performances that aren't necessarily comedy, and so I get that it's like you're gonna be on stage in this costume, look nice.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, cool. I'll work out. I'll be looking
Right.
good. Like, there. It's weird to me that a lot of the performances that I've done, I've actively thought in my head, I should poop before this, so I'm skinnier.
Oh,
Like,
right. Yeah. Yeah.
That is, it's a weird thing. It's
Yeah. Before I do comedy shows, I think I should poop before this because I have nervous diarrhea, and if I don't, I'm going to have an accident on stage. So,
hey,
more
you know,
about me.
we all got our
Yeah.
demons.
Yeah. We'd call that in the ballet world a PSP. It's a pre-show poop.
Oh, okay, cool.
Hey, guys, I'm going to be gone for a second. I got to go take a PSP
Real quick, PSP.
really quick.
Nice.
Yeah. Do you not ever get like nervous poops before a show?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah. I've gotten like I get nerves so bad. I have
Yeah.
like I don't know about you because everyone's like pre-show butterflies are a little different.
Well, but I think we're probably more similar in that because I find that opera and ballet are very similar art forms in
Oh,
that they
they're
are
intertwined a lot,
incredibly
too.
perfectionistic.
Yes.
They are incredibly. They can come from sort of the training environments can be quite sterile, and quite conservative,
Yes.
and also you typically have at least several weeks to refine and hone and practice and learn and get it just right. So
Yes.
I think it's going to be years if I ever get to a place where I'm not at least a little bit mortified to do a comedy show,
Right.
especially improv, because I'm going against everything I've been taught about what
Yeah.
makes a good show.
Yeah.
And I think you probably have that same experience.
Thankfully, I've also been able to do an improv show.
Right.
And before I went on stage, the only thought I had was, I'm gonna do so bad.
Right.
Like I was like, how could I possibly do good?
Yeah.
And it went fine.
Yeah.
Like
And that's all you can do, really. I mean, I think I obviously there are a lot of other hacks to having good shows,
Yeah.
and to getting over those nerves. I have had active panic attacks on stage before, especially after the pandemic. Everybody
yeah.
was so sad to not be on stage during the pandemic, and I was like, this is actually awesome. I love this.
Yeah.
It's great because all I could do, the only thing creative, I always have to be creative, but the only thing creative I could do safely was to do video sketches like by myself or with like a very small pod of people
Right.
at my house. And then I could sit at my computer and I could edit it and I could use this take and not that take and I could fix the sound. And so it kind of was a little bit more akin to ballet. It was refined, it was
Yeah.
honed. And then when I And I never missed being on stage. I just like creating. I don't need an audience for it. I'm going to be creating no matter what, whether it's like making like the best grilled cheese ever, or like doing or producing a show or writing a sketch or whatever.
Exactly.
So then when we got back to being on stage, I was like, I forgot how to be in front of people. And I was so scared. It was very bad.
Yeah,
but then I went on Prozac.
And all good.
Yeah.
Science.
Yeah, Prozac really helped my nerves.
Good.
Like my show nerves, which I didn't think it would. I thought it would just help the depression.
But it kind of evened out the...
Both things.
That's so nice.
Doing so much better, yeah.
Good for you.
Thank you.
That's so great.
Yeah.
I've really enjoyed, like, when COVID happened, I actually ended up switching mediums from opera to comedy.
Mm-hmm.
And one thing that I noticed, and I'm sure ballet, you have something that's incredibly similar, because even when you go off into the wings, you're still on because you're coming back on in like a second.
No, see, I'm really good at turning off.
Oh, you got a big off button.
I've got a big off
Staples
button.
easy button
In fact,
size.
I would say it's one of my biggest strengths. Like
Oh yeah.
I guess because when I'm on stage, I would love to tell you some stories about some ways that I like to make people break on stage. Obviously, in improv shows, you're not actively trying to make your scene partner break, but also it's already so ridiculous that it's hard to make them break, I think.
Yes.
And also, if you do break and everyone starts laughing, like nobody cares.
Right.
There's no stakes.
Hopefully it was funny enough.
Right. But I love to be the person that is like making everybody do this in a scene on stage. It's my favorite thing.
Yeah.
And which is, I guess, partly like, again, that comedy getting into it thing. Like these were the ways that I didn't realize I was already being a comedian. I also had friends in the ballet world being like, you should be a comedian. And I was like, that's dumb. No.
Yeah.
I'm a dancer.
I'm a dancer.
But yeah, it wasn't until I was on tour with the Phantom of the Opera that I was like, oh.
So cool, by the way.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, it was pretty neat. But when I was doing that, I was like, God, how is it that the finish line of all of this work to refine your voice and your dancing and your acting and your stagecraft is the gift of getting paid a lot of money to do the same show 8 shows a week all the time? I was like, this is not for me. Yeah. And so you got to keep it fresh somehow. Mm-hmm. I would keep it fresh with pranks. But also, that's when I started taking, when we had a residency at the Cadillac Palace Theater for a month in Chicago on tour, I was like, I read that people that are on SNL got there by doing like Second City and improv classes. So I was like, I want to do that. So I took my first improv workshop in like 2016, 2017.
Nice.
And then I started doing sketch writing classes remotely while I was on tour, which was so fun. Then I started doing open mics on tour, which is great because if you bomb, you leave the city forever.
You never have to come back.
You never have to come back. It's just a whisper in the wind. She bombed, and then it's over.
Goodbye, Saskatchewan, forever.
Right. Yeah. So that was a really cool kind of low stakes place to do it. It also kind of made me feel like I had an identity outside of this essentially 18-year-old character that I was playing at the age of like 35.
Right.
Which like after a while I was just like, I'm really sick of being a child. Not that 18-year-olds are children. You're very grown up.
You're as adult as you have been.
Right. But it was also like a Victorian era 18-year-old that was like a dancer. So like
baby.
It was a baby. Like she didn't know where the P went yet. She didn't know it goes into the V. Nobody told her.
Nobody. No birds, no bees, just secrecy.
Yeah, exactly.
Man.
Yeah, so that's all those things kind of came together. I kind of jumped around a little bit, but we're back.
Yeah, no, that's great. That's what's your favorite part about, since clearly you've done a lot of performing and stuff. What's your favorite part about the performance? Not necessarily the before or the after, but like once you're on stage. What do you like?
Well, as we've said, the being in front of people doesn't necessarily fulfill me.
Sure.
But I do love about comedy that, and this is in whatever medium, whether I'm performing, whether it's sketch comedy, whatever, I love the ability to introduce a subject in a way that is non-threatening, that is funny, that's disarming, but that then makes somebody maybe think about something differently or introduces a thought to them that they had never considered. And I love when I'm on stage, just that feeling of if I am on stage, if the audience is really, really with us in a scene and they're like really listening and they're like, that's so fun. It's cool to know that, you know, in this day and age of like doom scrolling on TikTok and just like wasting so much time staring at a screen and not being able to carry full on in-person conversations, I think, as well as we used to be able to, because we don't do it as much.
That's right. Don't click off this video yet, though.
Yeah,
We're
stay
telling
here.
you, watch this screen.
Totally. It's cool to be able to know that you're creating joy in a space, and you're also you're creating a space where everybody's focused on the same thing.
Yes.
And I think that's why people say it's like church, like comedy can be like church for them.
Yeah.
I'm not religious, but I understand the benefit that a human being has in being in a communal space.
Yes.
And all focusing on something in a positive way, which I think is what comedy does.
Yeah, especially in a lot of ways. Like the being at a show is such a fun experience.
Yeah.
Even if you don't know, if you've never been to a comedy show, if you've never been to see a comedy show, just go see one live if you have the chance.
Yes.
Don't care who's on. Don't
Oh,
just
but
go.
I'm in Chicago. There's no comedy shows to go to in Chicago.
Oh my
Shut up!
gosh.
They're everywhere. Yeah, so I like a lot about that. What do you like about performing? You said you're the same as me.
Mm-hmm.
We don't necessarily like the part at the end. I will say too. Can I give you a little bit of advice?
Oh yeah, I love advice.
If somebody comes up to you, you were mentioning before the podcast, before we were rolling, that you do not like it when people come up to you after the show and sing your praises. It's uncomfortable.
It does,
and
yeah.
probably because you feel like you don't deserve it, because you know all the ways that you messed up in your mind,
yeah,
right?
I've heard all my takes.
Right. So I would encourage you to learn to say thank you graciously, and not to throw and reject that compliment back in someone's face, just to be able to accept it. It's kind of like a fake it till you make it thing.
Oh, yeah.
Where, and I'm saying this from experience, I used to be so bad at taking compliments.
Yeah.
And there's something that you sort of, it's this, you get this windfall of confidence when over time you learn to just be like, thank you, man. I know that I did wrong, but all those things I know and saw, you didn't see any of that. You just had a good time. What a gift. And that's really, isn't that why we're there?
That's true. Yeah, because that is, even though sometimes when I don't feel as though I've done as good as I could have, when you get the audience being like, man, that was so much fun. You were so good.
Yeah.
Wow. It is highly uncomfortable when a person that I don't know comes up to me and is like, would the words you said have just changed my night? And I'm like, wow, okay, bro, it's not that serious. I was talking about gas station food.
But it can be, and it's so cool to know that wherever we are at right now, and however much further we think we have to go, that you right now are plenty for somebody in the audience to have a great time, and that's so cool.
Yeah,
you know?
And that to me, it is in the moment uncomfy, but afterwards, driving home and thinking you know what?
Yeah.
It is really cool that even though I just did gas station food bits for 5 minutes, that dude was like, hey, we connected on that.
Yeah, it's
and
a superpower, man.
Yeah, it's wild. It's fun. I enjoy it. I'm glad I can do it. I'm glad you can do it, by the way. I've seen you perform a bunch of times in improv, and you have this wonderful ability to, because in improv, for those of you that don't know, you will be getting suggestions from the audience and things like that. You have this wonderful ability to when a person gives you a suggestion or does something that is whether it be good or positive, you have this ability to reciprocate the energy. And if it's negative, you're just I'm just gonna water off a duck's back that one, and maybe we'll throw it back to you later, but for now we're gonna keep it going. We're moving, we're positive, we're killing it, we're doing well.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. That is very important to me. I think one of our biggest responsibilities in an improv show, again, because you're creating a space where you want people to yell things out, you want people to speak freely, you want them to be able to say that thing that's on their mind.
Yes.
And yet, there's no way to manage the opinions, political, leanings, homophobia potentially. There's no way to manage all of that, or even to be able to see it coming. And so you want to protect yourself, obviously, in a scene, but also I want to protect the person sitting next to the person who just said something really offensive.
Yes.
Because as soon as this person is highly offended, they've stopped having fun, and it's my job for everybody in the audience to have a good time. So how can we work around this? How can we change? How can we redirect? I love it when somebody gives me, I believe just with stand up, there's no joke you can't tell as long as you tell it right.
Correct.
I don't believe in a bad suggestion for improv. I don't like it when people say, oh, what was I supposed to do with that suggestion? It's well, if you don't like what you did, then you should have done something different.
Right.
But I love to get a suggestion that I can tell that the person thinks is going to stump me, and then making it into something maybe more high art, maybe making it satirical, and then they're like, oh, well, all right.
Right. It's a fun experience because that person now is like, you're pretty good at what you do. You know
Right.
that?
Yeah, nobody's going to be mad at that, right? And
Right.
I've also, I have not, I have not sort of like given this person a platform to be offensive, but I also haven't humiliated this person.
Yes.
And I've also still given them what they asked for.
And the show is better for it.
Yeah, it's fun to try to tick all those boxes at once.
Yeah.
And not just be like, oh, I can't do that.
Yeah, it's almost like you're a talented performer.
Thank you. Almost.
It's like,
Eventually.
We'll get there. Is anybody really a talented performer?
I mean,
Yes, the
is
answer is
anybody?
yes.
Is anybody? I feel like I sometimes get really angry about people being like, you're so talented, or like you must just be so naturally gifted at this.
Oh yeah, actually,
know?
you know what? You're 100% correct.
I do think maybe people have more of a predisposition for certain elements of the craft that they practice.
Yes.
But I think when you see somebody that you look at who is just like, whoa, my God, they're so talented. If you research and you study what did they do before they got to this moment, they probably worked that 10,000 hours plus.
Yeah, an incredible amount of time.
Yeah, so it kind of devalues the work that we do and the kind of geeking out we do about comedy, the thinking, the practicing, the honing.
Yeah.
When somebody says like, God, you're just so naturally gifted at this. I'm like, no, I'm actually really, really not.
Yes, and because you've also come from a stage background, so once you got back onto the stage, you already knew how to have presence.
Right.
And so essentially, first couple times that you were like did the thing, people were like, "Oh my God, you're a natural."
Exactly. It's like, no, you're seeing 20 years of work I already did that was very much dovetailing with what I'm doing now.
Uh-huh.
And honestly, I've been and I continue to lean on that because at the end of the day, I've only been doing improv consistently for like 3 years, 4 years, 4 years.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Big change then. Well, but 3 years to
But
4
still,
years, you know what
I
they
mean,
say.
that's not a very long time. I
No.
mean, I've been watching comedy and I've been consuming comedy for a long time, and I feel like I have a comedic sensibility.
Sure.
But I haven't been performing comedy for a long time. So that stagecraft is, again, that's the foundation I hope I can trick people into staying on board with me for long enough while I learn from my friends how to actually do it well.
That's the beautiful thing about it, though, is like you have drawing on that 20 years of experience of having that stage presence is like the audience a lot of times is like baby. They, if you give them something,
You're just like, ooh.
right? Yeah, like a
Yeah.
little bit of shiny. They'll stay with you for the most part.
Yeah.
If they're quiet, it's because they don't like it,
Yeah.
and which is hard.
You know, another thing that I believe that I've started to feel more and more strongly about the longer that I've been performing in any capacity
Sure.
is that I think sometimes people are so worried about like their comedy and that the thing that's going to make them popular and well liked as a comedian is having good jokes.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that sometimes we focus on that to the exclusion of thinking about like being a likable person, like a good person. And I do really believe, especially with comedy, and I know that there are certain different kinds of like comedians who their whole vibe is,
Right. Because when you,
mean comedy or like whatever.
yeah, it's their character.
Yeah, but especially in improv, when you are sort of being a vessel and you're imbuing a little bit of yourself in every scene you're doing and every character you're doing, I, as an audience member, am always going to be more drawn to somebody that I can tell has like a beautiful spirit. And I'm always going to be more on their side.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes in comedy, it can be very like, people get in their heads a lot, or they get judgmental of their scene partners. I can tell that they don't think their scene partner made a good choice.
Yeah.
And I'll clock into that before I'll get distracted by that.
Yeah.
And I feel like, I don't know. I like to think that by trying to be a good person and really coming onto stage from like a place of love and a place of like, I really want my scene partners to have a good show. I want them to do great. I'm not here to like win this.
Right.
I'm not here to like get the most stage time. I'm here for like us to do a good show for y'all.
Exactly.
I think when you come on with that's also something that breeds success.
Yeah, your show is absolutely elevated by the fact that like when you come as a group, and even like an open improv jam, you're not gonna win the jam, guys.
Right?
Like,
oh my gosh, I did a jam. You would have laughed if you were there because I did a jam that was like, it just felt like a bunch of dudes trying to win improv. And it was so obnoxious.
Yeah.
And it also, if you're not taking any gift you're given in a scene, where else could you, that's implying that you think that all of your ideas are the only and best ideas out there.
yeah.
And so you're closing yourself off to potentially having a scene that's amazing and goes in an entirely different direction. It's very toxic.
Yeah. The whole two heads are better than one thing. Sometimes people are like,
1000%.
yeah.
I've done scenes with like I was taking class at IO, improv class, and the people in class with me ranged from, like, there was somebody who was like a graduate from DePaul in comedy studies who was like a brilliant improviser and comedian.
Nice.
And who was in, level 1 at IO with me.
Right.
And then there were like this group of like women in their 60s and 70s who were just like, wouldn't it be a lark if we took improv? And we all came from different backgrounds. We all had different abilities to like think quickly.
Yeah.
We all and so I would do scenes sometimes with people that maybe somebody else might have seen as dead weight because they thought more slowly, or maybe they were shyer about making big, bold character choices. And I've always, when I've done scenes with people like that, I am so inspired by like, okay, this person exists in real life, right? So
Yes.
how do we make this funny? How do I support this person to where it seems like the way that they are and the limitations that they have are on purpose?
Yes.
And it's so fun to explore that.
Yeah.
Rather than just, pooping my way through a scene and then getting off stage and being like, I can't work like this.
Right.
It's like, all right, well, you need to be better.
Yeah. I was like, you made me a Tyrannosaurus. How am I supposed to be funny as a Tyrannosaurus?
Right. How can you not be funny as a Tyrannosaurus?
Right. Big head, little arms, homie. Go for it.
Right. Half of y'all already look like that. It's hilarious.
Right. Like,
Let's go, bro.
Yeah. That's
Absolutely.
anytime that I see like the best way to describe it is someone who looks a little bit like me, but if you like tweaked two settings, and they're like out doing comedy, and they're like the salesman bro or the finance bro who's like been in the boardroom, and like they're
And
very,
their jokes always slay at the office parties, so they think they're
100%.
an expert. Yeah.
Yes, and so when they go out and they do that sort of thing and they're going and having a wonderful time, don't get me wrong, some of those people are absolutely hilarious
Sure.
and they're very, very funny.
Sure.
There are also sometimes individuals who do that, and I'm like looking at you like, hey, dude, that'd be hilarious if you did that like 50 times bigger.
Right.
Or if you like made a character choice that was not just you.
Right. Or if your stand-up wasn't just all like, I'm better than people because of this thing.
Yeah.
Like I don't know.
Make yourself the butt of the joke.
Yeah.
It's funnier.
I mean, how can you not?
Right. I have this is, and I will go to my grave
Oh,
saying
it's serious
this.
now. Everybody, turn up the
Okay?
volume. Colin's about to preach.
This is a preachable moment.
Go.
All right.
Let's
Big
hear
wee
it.
wee jokes are not funny. Okay.
Big wee wee jokes?
Big wee wee jokes are not funny.
They're not.
They are not.
Like in what respect?
Like if just in general, if like they'd be like, my member is so large blank.
Oh, like when the finance bros come in and they're like, I mean, I guess our date didn't work out. Why didn't it work out? Probably because my D is too big, like that kind of thing.
100%.
I mean, I guess I would go back to I'm on board with you there. I guess I would go back to though that same thing about like you can always joke about something.
That's fair.
But if you're trying to use improv as a platform to like low key let every woman in the room know that you're packing heat, maybe just go to a bar.
Then that's probably
Just
a
go
better
to a bar,
call.
buy somebody a Cosmo and
Yeah.
roofie it, and then whatever.
Yeah, because and I will rephrase this. I think little wee wee jokes are significantly funnier than big wee wee jokes.
Gotcha.
On a whole.
Gotcha. Right.
Because if
Right.
if you punch down, you seem mean. Because
Yes. Well, because comedy, improv is coming off the top of the noggin, right?
Yeah.
So anything that's in your subconscious is gonna bubble up, which is sometimes worrisome. Like I was in a writer's room one time during COVID where we were all bringing in our writing, and like all these guys were bringing in their sketch comedy, and
Yeah.
everybody at one point or another had some kind of material around like stepmom sex, or like what was the other? Oh, like one guy, he just had these like one-liners. It wasn't even like the point of view of the sketch in its entirety, but
Sure.
he had this like one like funny character that was like ripping on this woman in their office because she was like too old to be wearing that low-cut dress.
Oh.
And I was like, in what world
Yeah.
is this comedy? Like, make it fun. If that's, I get it, if that's what you think. I get that you're a guy who thinks that women over 40 years old shouldn't wear a low-cut top because you don't like it. But where is the comedy in that? Just to like make fun of a woman's age is not enough. You're going to need to do more. And just to have the shock value of, oh, I'm writing a sketch where everybody in the family picture is naked, and now it's naked grandma and naked aunt and uncle and naked cousin. Where is your mind, dude? What's happening?
It's like it's tough out there, and
it is tough.
How are you gonna? Because what are you gonna do? Because the worst thing about that is that joke, in some sense or another, has been done
1,000 times. Like, why is that where everyone's brain is going? What is so inherently funny about, like, my stepsister, I walked in on her, saw her butt?
Maybe I'm so unfunny, and that is the funniest thing ever.
Right.
But
Potentially.
But
Because at least you're self-aware if you're that guy and you know you're so unfunny that that's the thing that's funny to you.
maybe you know what we could do is leave it up to the audience. Please leave us a comment and let us know if we're funny.
Yeah,
If you made it to this far.
I heard a rumor women aren't funny, so I would love
Oh, you did?
market research.
That was my bad.
It's
That
okay.
one's on me.
It's all
I'm
right.
so sorry about that.
All right. I'm not offended. I get it.
We all do bad things in
Our
middle
brains
school.
are smaller. You know, all the blood's going to my uterus. I can't think of jokes.
Can't be. How can you be
Small.
funny?
Look at my little body. What? It's not good for anything.
It is.
How am I supposed to? You can't be on stage when you're 5'3" doing comedy. Come on.
That's just dangerous. That's
Nobody wants to see that. That's disgusting.
That's fair. All right. Well, if you're a fellow smooth brain like us, go ahead and subscribe to Sugar Beats. I think that's gonna be enough. Anything else that you want to plug? We had a good plug at the beginning.
Comedy Vault Batavia, 2 p.m. on Sunday. And then, I mean, I guess I could plug my OnlyFans again.
Oh yeah, yes, absolutely. We have the longer plug version. Do the
Okay.
quick. Give this clip
Get
notes.
this booger out of my eye. Do you want to do a close up on that?
Yeah. Oh, we got. I'll get out of the
You
way
wanna-
so we can
you
zoom in
wanna-
on
you
that.
wanna zoom
There you
in
go.
on-
Perfect.
Just getting this.
Oh,
You
yeah.
got it, Cody? Great.
We're gonna clip that and put that on the OnlyFans. That's going to
yeah. Eye boogers.
Patreon content.
So yeah, as I was telling you, I had written a sketch that I was burping in for comedic value, and then I accidentally stumbled upon an entire civilization of men who are turned on by women burping.
Oh yeah.
And I was like, this is fascinating. And
It's a really cool Reddit if you ever visit.
yes,
Just saying.
you know how I know about that Reddit is because I had, within 24 hours of having my page open,
Yeah.
I had about 100 subscribers because people, I commented on my YouTube comments like, hey, I just started this account. Then they went and told all their people. They sounded the
Sound the alarm.
yeah, the alarm, the bat signal is just like a big burp. And then, yeah, so onlyfans.com/burping ballerina. And guys pay me to send them burping videos.
Yeah.
It's a service I'm happy to provide for
Absolutely.
a fetish that is unusual, but no judgment. It's so funny because they're all embarrassed, I think, a lot of them, of like, they don't want to tell people because people find it gross. And I'm like, so we're all like doing like rape fantasy
And like the burp
stuff,
is where
and that's
you're
normal.
like,
We're all fine with that. You're choking your girlfriend and acting like you're like home invasion,
But,
and that's cool, and we're not offended by that, gross out. But like,
It's
ooh,
fair.
you like burping, so I'm like, dude, give these guys what they want. It's not hurting anybody,
that's right.
and I feel good when I burp. It's a release, right?
That's right. I think the only downside is that you just buy more Tums. Is that
I pee a lot more.
Pee a
It's
lot
a lot
more?
of like shotgunning Sprites and stuff.
okay.
Beer chugging. Because I have to chug a lot to burp.
Right,
so
right,
it's
right.
just like I'm bloated for a little bit, but like
okay.
otherwise, no harm, no foul. And then a burp is like it's like the orgasm of the throat. You know what I mean?
That's a beautiful thing.
Thank you.
It's so beautiful.
Yeah, just it's a nice release. Everyone feels better.
It's true.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Emily Ramirez, for coming on the
Thank you.
podcast. You've been
Thanks
an
for having
absolute
me.
joy. Please subscribe to Sugar Beats. If you guys have made it this far, go ahead and hit the notification bell. Should be pretty close underneath
Oh,
there.
and you can check out my sketch comedy and the burping video if you want. At if you look at Emily Ramirez Comedy on all platforms, Emily Ramirez Comedy on YouTube, you'll see all my sketch comedy. Emily Ramirez Comedy on Instagram. Yeah, check it out.
Yep, and then we'll link that below as well. Thank you all so very much. I had a fantastic time. Hope you had a great
Me
time
too.
too.
Thanks, Colin.
Yeah, absolutely. And then we'll catch you on the next one. Peace.